So you can see we broke out. We had a ton of volume holding above here, shown by the volume profile. Notice how we also had a ton of volume holding here, which is essentially why we broke out, because supply dried up, you broke out, and then you hit this huge amount of supply above, which then acted as resistance.
This is the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast, brought to you by 10MinuteStockTrader.com, where we cover finance, stocks, options, entrepreneurship, education, and money. And here's your host, voted one of the top 100 people in finance, Christopher Ewell. Today's episode is produced in partnership with TrendSpider. Get scanning, charts, backtesting, and alerts all in one place with TrendSpider. Go to trendspider.10MinuteStockTrader.com to get an exclusive discount code and bonuses worth over $100 when you take your free trial at trendspider.10MinuteStockTrader.com. Hey, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified every time we give you more tools, tips, and tricks to help you trade faster and trade smarter every single week.
Hey everybody, this is Jake, and this is another video in the technical analysis series. And in this video, we're going to continue on with different types of patterns, touching on the falling wedge and the rising wedge, or the descending wedge and the ascending wedge. They're known as both. So what's really interesting about the falling wedge is you can see here, this is SLV on the daily, and a falling wedge is essentially when you have lower lows and lower highs, but you continue to kind of coil in a tighter range here. So you can see here, every time we really kind of, move to these areas, you'll see here, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see how it's kind of coiling here. We didn't actually get to this area here, but we retested it and then finally broke out. And so what's really interesting here is generally these can be seen as a bullish setup, because here you can see the breakout. Now, one thing that I want to mention here is, any pattern that you see or read about, there's no pattern that's guaranteed. Any of these patterns can break to the upside if it's bearish, or break to the downside if it's bullish. So what I want to really focus on here is, focusing on where you may find resistance once you do break out. And so that's something that I want to touch on with the volume by price, or the volume profile. And what I really want to focus on is being able to anchor this volume profile from different areas. So notice I can move this to the right or to the left, and by doing this I can essentially kind of anchor where I want the volume profile to start. And so if you've heard of the anchored volume weighted average price by Brian Shannon, founder of Alpha Trends, this is similar to that, except you're anchoring the volume profile. So if we wanted to anchor the VWAP as well here, you can see how well these work together in conjunction with each other. So you can see we broke out. We had a ton of volume holding above here, shown by the volume profile. Notice how we also had a ton of volume holding here, which is essentially why we broke out, because supply dried up, you broke out, and then you hit this huge amount of supply above, which then acted as resistance. Notice now how we anchored the volume profile and the VWAP from here, and how the price almost bounced right off of it. One thing that I want to mention about the alert system on TrendSpider, not only for the falling wedge, but for the anchored VWAP, is you can easily create an alert at this line, and you can have some sensitivity around this line and capture, if we don't get exactly to that line below. And you can see this as I move it to the right and left, it gets bigger and smaller. And so anywhere in this purple area, I'll be alerted anytime, let's say, the 10-minute candle closes in this area. And so that's how the alert system can work if you want to use that. One thing I want to mention as well, if you're watching a falling wedge form, you want to know anytime the price breaks through this general area. So what you can do is you can go ahead and create an alert at this line as well if you wanted to. And let's say you only wanted to know when the price was going to break through this line. So we'd say falling wedge support breakdown. And we do, let's say, you choose your expiration. In this case, it's already happened, so this is just an example. Let's say we want to know 5 days from now if it breaks. Same thing on the top here, we'd create an alert, and then all we need to know is anytime the price breaks through either one of these lines, we know it's time to start looking at the price action in a little more detail. So this is an example of just creating an alert on both sides of a falling wedge, both the support and resistance, and when the price breaks through one of them, you know it's time to start getting a little more involved. Now, one thing I do want to mention here is the raindrop charts. So in this case, when we turn on the raindrop, you'll essentially be able to see, you know, what we weren't able to see with a regular hollow candle. So if I switch this and split screen and go to hollow candles versus the raindrops, you'll see here that when we initially broke through this line, there was a wick here, but we didn't actually close through. Now, if you compare that to the same candle, and I'm just going to put a little arrow here, or a little square here, you can see these are the exact same candle. The raindrop, which is a volume-based candle, is telling us that on the right-hand side, which shows this big blob of volume, that most of the volume was focused above this red trend line during the second half of the day. So even though this wick is showing that there was some sellers that came in, this is showing us that those sellers were quickly absorbed by buyers above this trend line. So this is a way that you can utilize the system in multiple different ways, but I do want to go over what an ascending wedge or a rising wedge is as well. And this is a good example here on SPY, where we've got just a very, defined area where the price is slowly kind of getting closer and closer to each other while we're still hitting higher highs and higher lows. These typically can sometimes be looked at as bearish, but these can easily break to the upside, and SPY is a great example of this because there have been plenty of ascending wedges along this move up, and we've broken out through each one of them so far. So you're not always going to have, a falling wedge that's always bullish. You're not going to have a rising wedge that's always bearish. But these are areas to kind of watch for to see how price reacts. Same thing here. You can go and create an alert on the resistance and the support. And whichever way the price breaks through, you'll know, okay, maybe the price action is going to take to the upside or to the downside based on what's triggered. So this is a way that you can utilize both just your average, alert by looking at a breakthrough or a bounce through this crucial area, or getting more complex using the raindrops and looking at, whenever the volume is above a specific line. So that is something that I really wanted to touch on today. If you do want to use our trend indicator, we cannot necessarily find a rising wedge and characterize it as that. But what we can do is we can use the trends, and sometimes we will find these different areas for us on the screen without necessarily having to do much work on our end. What this does is it removes a lot of the bias that you can possibly have on your chart, as well as just making the system look for these more mathematically strong and relevant lines for you without having to put too much effort in. So that is the video on how you can use some of these different features on TrendSpider with these rising and falling wedges. Hope this helped. Have a great day, and if you have any questions, please comment below in the comments section, and please subscribe. Thanks so much.
I've written a short guide on how you can use the Triple Stock Profit system. It's the secret weapon every investor needs right now to change your financial future, and you can get it for free by visiting TripleStockProfits.com or in the links below. Also, if you want to join a community of traders just like you can get free access to the elite membership that has even more resources to help you trade faster and trade smarter. Hey, if you like this video, let me know by leaving me a like below, and then subscribe and share it with somebody you think could use it as well. Be sure to comment below with your biggest takeaway from this episode and any suggestions you have for future episodes. And finally, make sure you watch these other videos to help you trade faster and trade smarter, and I'll see you on the next episode.